Greetings from the Pacific Northwest and Portland, Oregon. I'm Doug Zanger, agency's editor of Adweek, and welcome to Adweek Together. Wherever you may be, we wish you the very best. Before we get started, I want to point out some more great Adweek programming for the rest of this week. Tomorrow, Sarah Personette of Twitter joins us to talk about customer first consumer connection. Try saying that 3 times fast. And H&R Block CMO Vinu Vijay is here Friday to discuss what we all can agree is a very bizarre tax season. And we thank you for your support of our work at Adweek and encourage you to support our journalism, including our quickly evolving diversity and inclusion content. And we invite you to get an Adweek Pro subscription at adweek.com/offer. Today, we are talking about next generation and new talent entering the industry at a time, I'm not going to say unprecedented, at a time unlike any other. But how can the industry support this talent? Joining us today, ironically also from Portland, Oregon, is Natalie Kim, founder of We Are Next, a very popular open resource for students and junior talent pursuing advertising and marketing. And we are proud to say a 2019 Adweek champion. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Doug, thank you so much for having me. We were just joking about how we both live in Portland, but we only see each other at airports when we're not at home.
Right.
So it's good to be connecting sort of face to face now.
Ever so close. Same with Mary Emily O'Hara, who's in Portland, our diversity and inclusion reporter. Same deal where it's I'll see you in New York, I guess. Yeah. But we are here and we're talking about a very important topic, especially with graduation coming up. It is just it's really difficult right now for students. It's very difficult for people who have decided to join the industry for the first time. But I want to start with this. There have been some issues with internships at agencies, and completely understandable. Some have been canceled, and the same thing here with some talent. They may have had their first job opportunity put on hold. Talk to me what you think what should talent in that position be doing right now to ensure that they keep their career on track?
I think the way that question is phrased is great too, because your career is still on track. Like the track is so windy for anyone, no matter when they start their career. It just might be a little bit slower leaving the station. And I think that's actually okay. I've been trying to encourage people to think about this time less in the terms of like what's been taken away from you, and more so what are you gaining in terms of a little extra time before you start your career, which is actually quite rare. And I think a really important thing for any student or new grad or young talent to understand right now is, the recruiters and people on the hiring end, when this is all over, they know that very few people are hiring right now. So they're not going to be looking for agency work experience on your resume. That's not the criteria they're going to be using when they assess talent. They'll really be looking for, how did you creatively, proactively use this time to continue to sharpen your skills, to gain some experience and make things. I mean, we talk so much about how this is an industry of makers. So how did you go about doing that in this time with so many restrictions? Sometimes that squeeze causes even more, creativity and innovation. So, I think if people have to work, there are certain realities around student debt, and you just need to start working right now, looking to industries that are hiring right now outside of our lovely advertising and marketing industry. And I think a way to think about it is what industries are really thriving right now because we're all staying at home. And things like streaming services, esports, gaming, social media, Amazon, of course, like collaboration software. When I do the job board for We Are Next, we're always trying to find any opportunities that are out there. And these sort of tangential industries, there are opportunities out there where the skills that you would gain are translatable. I mean, I think almost anything you do, there's a way to find a way to make your skills translatable. So if you have to work, I think looking to those other industries. And I think if you have a cushion, really using this time to create your own opportunities, whether that means volunteering your services to organizations that are doing really great things right now and need help, trying to freelance, or, just creating spec work, teaming up with other young talent around the country and creating something new. I love to see that when something is new, created out of, times of stress. So I think that's a huge way that people can take a little bit more control over the outcome of all this. We feel like so much is out of our control right now, but I think young talent does have more control than they think. And the last thing in terms of this time, networking, we talk on a good day about how important that is in your career, and now even more so. So you have this extra time to build up your network before you start your career, so that when things do pick up, you have people to turn to help guide you towards opportunities. So I think that's a lot of, what I've been telling students and young talent to really do right now.
Well, I want to get to the internship question here in a second, but in terms of networking, let's talk a little bit about, I guess a good way to put this is being bold. So if you are a junior, if you're just starting out, if you're a student, and you want to talk to that senior leader at an agency that you really respect, let's talk a little bit about the importance of not necessarily being afraid to reach out to ask for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, because I think that's an opportunity that a lot of junior talent doesn't necessarily take advantage of. And you may not get a response. You might send a LinkedIn note or an email to 10 people, and you might only get one response, but that one response could be a catalyst.
Yeah, I think definitely don't shy away from reaching out, especially now. People are working from home. They might have a little bit more time in their hands, a little bit more flexibility to jump on a quick call or to do a virtual meeting. And yeah, the worst thing is that someone doesn't respond. And there are so many reasons why they didn't respond. It's not necessarily because they open your email and we're like, oh, that person's not worth my time. So I always tell people, like, please don't assume the worst when you don't get a response. And so really you don't have anything to lose, especially if you're reaching out the right way. And I do think there's a right way. I think if you can be really intentional about who you're reaching out to and being specific about what you want to know and making that really clear to them when you reach out. I think too often we see requests that are more general about wanting to pick your brain or hear about your career path. And that sounds specific, but it's not specific enough, because that could mean a whole lot of things. And so if you can drill down specifically to what you want to know and tie that to why that person is exactly the right person for you to reach out to because of what you want to know, it gives the person on the receiving end, the senior talent or leader, a way to understand exactly how to prepare and, come to the call ready to answer your specific question. And two, it's just easier. It gives them something to grab onto. They're very busy. And if they know, oh, they have this one question about this specific move that you made in your career or this specific situation, they're much more likely to say yes. And I think, wrapping all that with empathy around this time and the fact that everyone's having to adjust, I think those two things in combination will go a really long way in getting responses. And I think also, just to end this thought, is I think senior leaders, they have so much knowledge and we should all reach out to them. I think equally, people like 4 to 5 years into their career are some of the best mentors, because they're not so far removed from that experience of starting your career. They did it, not too long ago, but they're far enough into their career that they know a little bit what's what. And often they're, more accessible. So I encourage everyone to kind of look a little bit broadly in terms of who they're reaching out to.
Let's move over to the agency community and summer internships. We saw last week, and this has been happening. It has been happening for a couple of weeks, but MAPE, for example, moved their internship program online. So, again, and this is completely understandable. Some agencies had to drop out. Quite a few had to drop out. Pereira Odell is working with the CUNY system in New York to try to maintain summer internships. For agencies that have made the summer internship virtual, what should they keep in mind to give interns the best experience possible, given the circumstances that we're all in right now?
It's so heartening for me, especially to see agencies make the effort to take their internships online. But I think at the same time, if companies don't really think about think really carefully about how to successfully integrate, especially new team members virtually, we'll see a lot of interns fall through the cracks. I mean, it happens again in real life internships all the time, even with the best intentions. So I think that double layer of, bringing on interns and then trying to do it virtually, it just takes a little bit even more consideration, I think. And I think it's a really great opportunity for agencies to sort of rethink the materials around their internship program. So whether that's translating your onboarding experience online, if you have a robust onboarding experience, which hopefully you do, the interns that are coming in, they're probably the least familiar with working from home on a continued basis, presenting virtually, or just dealing with kind of like the emotional roller coaster that is this time. And so figuring out how to translate some of those resources online for the beginning of their internship, I think is super important. And then setting up opportunities for interns to meet and speak with other people in the company, outside of their core team. That's such a huge part of internships that we always encourage interns to do. And without that kind of ability to get up and pop over to someone's desk, I think you're missing a lot. And so creating a little bit of a structure around that, whether it's sort of like lunch dates, that sounds really corny, but just setting up some sort of regularity in terms of like accessing other people. And then lastly, any managers, making sure you have regular check-ins. Again, this sounds really basic from an internship perspective, but I think when we're forced to bring everything online, it can again fall through the cracks. So making sure you're having those regular check-ins and being really specific around how your open door policy translates to an online environment. Like what mode of communication do you want to see from them where they can, they can get you anytime, whether it's text or it's Slack or whatever. So I just think those things that we think are so obvious, it just takes like a little bit extra consideration given that it is new talent and we're all trying to figure out, how to do this online.
We covered a lot of ground on how agencies can support talent. So real quickly, outside of what we just talked about, what should agencies and brands, and I want to take this to brands too, because if there's a marketing role in a brand, if there's an in-house agency, et cetera, what should agencies and brands be doing now outside of what we just talked about to support young and new talent? Again, there's young talent, and then there's new talent that are getting into the industry potentially for the first time.
There are a couple things I think we can talk about in terms of what they can be doing now, and then a couple things as we move hopefully towards a future where we're getting back a little bit to normal, an adjusted normal, I suppose. I heard this piece of advice from someone from the Ad Council, actually. They were saying how when they were sending out their internship cancellation emails, which obviously is unfortunate, but understandable, especially if you can't do all the things that we just talked about. Her advice was to, offer mentorship and assistance to specifically those people whom you had to say, unfortunately, we can't go through their internship. If you believe in them, still believe in them as talent, how are you helping them even just from a mentorship perspective and, keeping that connection with the talent as well. I think also we've seen a lot of great examples, and I know we're going to talk about additional resources, but we've seen examples of organizations opening up their content to the public. And I think there's a huge opportunity in agencies and brands opening up their internal learning and development content to young talent or new talent, especially if it's already online. Like, it's so easy, I say that not knowing the back end, but, I think it's an opportunity for them to provide that sort of inside the walls experience that new talent is really looking for, and also give a little bit of a sense of your company's culture. Like, what a great, twofer to be able to provide. I think for new talent that still managed to get a job and, has jobs, and as we, start hiring new talent, just being also really, again, considered about the fact that many are dealing with these things that we're having to do for the first time. I know everyone's having to adjust, but we also have the benefit of having worked with all, our team members really closely. And so translating that working relationship onto Slack, that's a lot easier than, someone coming in fresh, into a company and having to do so. So just, I think junior talent from a mental health perspective, from a, workplace environment perspective, just giving them a little bit of extra support, I think, in this time. And as we get, starting to hire again. And lastly, I think when hiring picks up, a lot of people have been laid off or furloughed. It's an opportunity for all companies to rethink how their teams are structured. Instead of just hiring back the same people or the same level talent, you have a lot of really hungry young talent that's itching to work. So I think there's a really exciting opportunity to see how that might affect internal teams. So I encourage, agencies, brands to really take a look at that.
Yep. We have a few more minutes left. And obviously, We Are Next is a valuable resource for junior talent. But what other resources have you seen being created to support talent during the pandemic?
There are so many, which I'm so happy to say, because again, I just love seeing the industry come together to support not just young talent, but talent of all levels in this time and sort of band together. They sort of fall into categories. There's been a lot of there have been a few talent lists. So the Avail list was started. There was a spreadsheet of talent in Portland that got laid off, but then it kind of linked up with a larger spreadsheet of talent that was available, and I think that's really wonderful. Then there's the job list on the other side. The One Club has a really great running list across a bunch of industries of open positions, which I think is wonderful. I mentioned opening up content. So the 3% opened up their 3% Academy content. AEF, their Made summer webinar series is now, used to be just for their summer interns and now has been open to everyone. Same thing with, the Creative Circus. They have their Friday forums. They're making it available to everyone. 99U conference is also now open. I think those are really wonderful opportunities for people who, previously didn't have access to this type of, event or content to have access to it now. So I think, again, a huge silver lining, I guess, to all this. And then you see, completely new things being created, which is my favorite thing. You have 100 Roses from Concrete, their growth initiative from Kenny Thacker, which is wonderful. You mentioned the CUNY program, Save the Internships. They're just so many forms, and I hope to continue. I hope we continue to see people as this thing continues to evolve, as it continues to progress, as stay at home prolongs. And obviously, these are just resources that hopefully helps talent in this industry in this specific situation. But we've also seen really great things to help people on the front line. Again, like, there are so many people doing good out there in the world, and what are ways that we can use our talents and our time, now that we have some time, especially young talent, to support them and grow our skills at the same time. So, I hope to see so much more of that.
In 2 sentences or less, I'm going to challenge you on this last one. How do you think the pandemic, quarantine, this time is going to affect this generation of talent?
My hope, and I'm just going to say it's going to happen, is that all of this makes this generation of talent more resilient, more creative, more connected, especially with each other, despite us all being separated. I think that there's a huge opportunity for what's happening now to affect the rest of their careers in the most positive way. There's a lot of talk about how it can, delaying the start of their career. I think there's huge opportunity for it to define the rest of their career in a really wonderful way. So that's
all right. Longer than 2 sentences. We'll say that's a really good run-on sentence. Does that work?
Yes.
I knew I couldn't get that in 2 sentences or less. So no, I was just playing a little bit, but I really appreciate it. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us. The insight, as always, is great, and we wish you the very best moving forward with We Are Next and all the other things that you're working on.
Thank you so much, Doug. This is really fun. Thank you for having me.
And thank you. You bet. And thank you all for joining us. A reminder that tomorrow at noon Eastern, Sarah Personette of Twitter joins Adweek's executive editor, Stephanie Patrick, to talk consumer connection. You can find all of our episodes of Adweek Together at adweek.com/together. And we remind you to sign up for your Adweek Pro subscription at adweek.com/offer. On behalf of the team at Adweek, I'm Doug Zanger, wishing all of you the best. And paraphrasing the wonderful Mark Evan Jackson from the Good Place podcasts, get on out there and keep doing something good.